Hello, friends. Welcome back to the channel, and thank you for joining me today for part 2 of my near-death experience compilation that I'm posting throughout the month of October and the first 2 weeks of November. Today, we're going to hear part 2 of the love and light from the other side. We're going to hear from a whole bunch more experiencers on what that experience of being in the love and light was like for them. If you'd like to connect with any of my guests, I will have their names displayed on the screen as they are speaking, and I will have each of them listed in the description box with their contact links. If you'd like to connect with me, you can also find my links to my social media in the description if you'd like to support this channel. Thank you for watching. That helps out a lot just by itself, but my Patreon link is also in the description box. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy.
At the same time, I was in a space where I felt so loved, and it just enveloped me like a mother holding a newborn. Like you're a mom, right? So you remember the first time you held your son or your daughter, and you can just imagine the level of comfort that they felt in your arms, the safety and the security. That's how I felt. It was like a safety, it was like a security, and I just felt so peaceful. I was everywhere all at once. Like my consciousness was just heightened 1,000 times. But the crazy thing is that I didn't miss what was on the other side. I remember feeling that I didn't want to return. I didn't want to come back. I wanted to stay exactly where I was. So I didn't see a light. I didn't see family members, things of that nature. But my experience was one of love, safety, pure happiness and joy. And I didn't want to return. I felt like I was in a really good place, and had I stayed a little longer, I would have been okay. I would have been gone for good. And my spirit would have been completely satisfied and happy, overjoyed, if you will, with where I was at that time, because I was completely oblivious to anything that was happening on this side. There was no emotional attachment to anything on this side. And I thought that was absolutely amazing.
I looked up and I could see this beautiful, beautiful light. And at first I thought it was a light bulb in the pool. And I thought to myself, what was a light bulb doing in the pool? And then the light just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and closer and closer. And I don't know if I was going up to it or it was coming down to me, but it was getting really big. And it was a brilliant white light, but it was so soft on my eyes. It didn't hurt my eyes at all. And I felt just love come through this light. And I wasn't cold. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't hurting anywhere. I was just laying on the bottom of 10 feet of water and just enveloped by this light.
I began to be immersed and engulfed in this liquid golden love. It held me. It surrounded me, encircled me, like just kept going round and round. And it was the best way I could describe it. It was, I call it liquid golden love. And it just held me in an indescribable love. And it just held me as I was afraid. It held me, and I became curious about it, because it's like, what is this? Is this God? Yes, I was given, yes, this is God. This is love. This is light. This is me. Yes, you are the light of the world. Let your light shine. God is love. All these Bible verses began to come to me. Don't hide your light. And the love just held me. It held me in an indescribable embrace. And it just continued to hold me. The more it held me, the more at peace I felt. It held all my memories. It held all my beliefs, all the things I did to someone, everything that they did to me that was hurtful. And it just continued to hold me. And the more it held me, the more curious I got. And I was like, it's like it knows me. It knows what I need. I need to be held. It surrounded me, and it just continued to flow around me. And then the more peaceful I felt, it started to flow through me, like in a figure 8. And it just was merging with everything inside of me, around me, and it became me. And it just immersed itself so completely. I merged with it. And I knew I am that. And I knew that everything was resolved. All my emotional stuff, everything was resolved.
And when we went forward, we integrated into Source. And that's how I learned that I am Source. When I had the realization, oh my God, I did this to myself. You know, I chose this life. I created this universe. I was the prime mover, never the victim. And along with that, I knew I had never been alone, never unloved, never unwanted, never out there without an anchor, never on my own, never alone. And that still moves me to tears now. It was the deepest love I've ever felt or could even imagine.
There was a being there, 2 beings of light, and they didn't have form like a person. It was hard to describe with words. They were just vibration and energy and colors that kept undulating. But the main thing was that it was pure unconditional love that they were made of, and that was receiving my essence. And this light, like I eventually realized that this light was my own being too, that I was part of this greater light and made of the same thing, like made of the same substance, the same love, this unconditional love. And there was 0 judgments, there was no judgments, there was no opinions, it was total acceptance. And like it was the warmest, complete accepting embrace that I'd never known on my short life.
Boom. I became that amazing light that everybody talks about, that light at the end of the tunnel. And I became that light for an eternity. Just boom. And this person that I had been no longer existed. I no longer existed. I mean, I guess that's the easiest way to explain it, even though that's not entirely true. I became integrated with that light. The light and me, no difference, exactly the same. And when you are that light, the idea of a self just seems ridiculous. Like, why would I want to be a person? Why would I want to be a being with all that suffering throughout life, all this misery, everything clouded, no awareness of anything? Just these are beings, you know. And so that light, that amazing, and when I say light, I could say God, I could say the source. You know, there's different ways of explaining that. In reality, there's no human explanation whatsoever that can come close to what that life experience really is. Nothing. So it's beyond anything we can imagine. So we put labels on all different things in our spiritual life, but this particular experience, which I would say it was directly experienced. So I becoming that light, it was like it wasn't even like I went anywhere. It was like, boom, I was there. That's it. I'm that light. And that light, it's so intense that a million suns wouldn't be anywhere close to that intense. Right all in orbit around the Earth. It would be not even close. Anything you can think of in this life, this human life, is very dull by comparison. Things that would burn your eyes, like an arc welder or looking at the sun, which you should not do. Those were not even nearly as bright as this. But it was a sense of profound awareness of everything and beyond everything. It was this radiant love and compassion that cannot be defined as just simple love and compassion. It was beyond what we as humans can rationally experience, because it was complete openness. Nothing was hidden anywhere. And the essence of everything was very obvious.
Once I went deep, deep, deep into the darkness, I saw a little dot of light that just when I connected with that place, it was like a tunnel of like, I guess it was, I don't know, it was like rapid, but it was like, it started to grow, but like tremendously fast, just like engulfed me. And then this white light, basically, that was like all around me was like, I could only explain it as rapturous. So it dissolved every part of my being, and it vibrated me so fast that it was that I was all of that, but it wasn't me, And so what I experienced that as, and I'll put a name to it because of my experiences after, is that was Christic consciousness. There was a white light, Christ-like love energy. And in this moment, when I had the experience with that, I, in that moment, saw everybody that I loved in the past, in this moment, and in the future, but people that I also didn't know yet. Like I saw faces, like thousands of faces, all the way down, but in 1 second. So it was like all of these timelines and all of these spaces and all these individuals that I had an opportunity to love and see and feel in everything, not just even people, but like there's circumstances and people and plants and like everything. So I don't know, I wouldn't necessarily call it a life review because it was in cohesion with other timelines. It was everything all at once. And when I connected with this energy of love, I was then sucked back, like boom, back into my physical body. And in that place, I felt like all the soul fragments of me, all the parts of me that were lost or in spaces of trauma potentially, they were all brought back to my womb, back into me at the core of me. And when I opened my eyes, I was so full. I was just completely full, like in every way that you could imagine, just totally full. And I felt so like just radiating the vibration of love, like radiating the vibration of light.
And what's interesting is I didn't see the tunnel and the white light like most people do, but I have since found out through these interviews and podcasts that this is actually a very common experience in the Japanese culture, near-death experiences, that you are on a boat or some kind of, I mean, mine I would call like a wooden raft. I was taken to this place of light. And it was just kind of like I went there. They didn't communicate with me at the beginning of all of this. I just kind of was taken. And so here I was in this place of light with what felt like a human body. It felt like I had an energy of my own at first. And I noticed colors and trees of different colors that I'd never seen before. And I heard music that I'd never heard before. And it was just incredibly bright. And at some point, I lost my physical energy and I just melted into this light. It was like love embodied me. It first felt weighted and heavy on my energetic body until finally I just became the love. I just became light. Nothing mattered that I cared about on the earth. I was completely in love. I was in the love. I was the love. And then everything went away. I couldn't see anything at that point. I was just experiencing being love. And I don't know how long I stayed in it, but at some point I was taken back to the raft with this knowledge that I had received. So there was all this beautiful information in the light that I kind of absorbed in that moment. And I came back to the raft, and Jesus communicated with me through his thoughts. And I was given a choice. I was given a choice. I could either stay there in this heaven space, or I could go back and live my life. And I remember wanting to stay, initially wanting to stay. I was like, I feel home. I feel complete. It's beautiful. I remember knowing that it was all love in that place. There was no label. It was all beautiful, loving, kind, energetic, no judgment at all. Everything was okay.
And the light got more intense and larger and more beautiful until it just absorbed me. And I became the white light. I was the white light. And you've heard people talk about love. This is a place of love. Well, it was just like, the love, it was like wave after wave after wave of cleansing white love washing over me. Perfect love. Infinite love. That's a big word, but that's what it was. Infinite love. And it absorbed me. I had become infinite love. It was one thing.
But I was comforted in this. All was well, all will be well, all was always well. Eternal awareness, and there was nothing to worry about. There was nothing to do, nothing to look in the past. I was just in this moment of eternal trust and knowingness of this pure love, pure unconditional love that I was and forever connected to. And it was just the most euphoric sensation.
It's like it's nothing, but it's everything. And this feeling that I have is I am in complete and total oneness. And in this place, this is where it gets really, really hard to try to describe each piece because it all blended together as one. But I had this feeling that wherever I was, one, I didn't wonder where I was. I didn't worry about where I was. I didn't even really have much recollection about the physical body that I just came from. I had a sense of self. I knew who I was, that I had an individual sense of self. I remember that. But I remember so clearly that I was a part of this, what I call a oneness in this void. Now, I call it a void, but the better way to describe it is like it's a void of anything that isn't complete. It felt like everything in this place was absolutely complete. Everything that was to ever be known all existed there. Every soul experience, every soul was absolutely a part of this, and any experience that any of us have ever had through any soul experience was all accessible there. And it was a place of absolute knowing. And just like the time didn't exist when I was back in the room but hovering over my body, time didn't exist here at all either. But it felt like I've tried so hard to find the words to describe some of these pieces because we just don't have a vocabulary for something like this. We don't live our day-to-day lives feeling at one with everything. We don't walk past our mailbox and feel like we're one with the mailbox. It's just not the way we live our lives. So we don't have a real vocabulary to describe these kinds of experiences. But it was as if I was one with everything, and that there had never been anything but being one with everything. And because of that, it felt like, and it gave me this sensation that I could look through the eyes of every single soul that had ever existed through all time and through any experience ever.
So I called out to him as powerful as I could, Jesus, please save me. And with that, a tiny light appeared in the darkness. And it got very bright, white light, brighter than the sun. And it was overwhelming because it was so bright. I wasn't afraid, but I didn't know if it was going to just consume me. It was so bright.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, it was wonderful and filled with love. So it wasn't really light. It was a radiance, but it wasn't light like we know it. Because it didn't have the harmful effects of that bright light.
Right.
Just the opposite. And out of it emerged hands and arms, and he reached down and touched me. And when he touched me, I could see that I was all gore. And when he touched me, all that gore just went away. And I was intact. All the pain was gone. And he filled me with love that's indescribable. And what we know as love, what we experience in this world as love, doesn't even begin to compare to his love, his great love, which is so much greater. And his hands went behind my back and he picked me up and held me close to him and put his arms around me and began to stroke my back gently, like a mother or father would do with their child. So I buried my face into his chest and cried like a baby. And I was happy beyond anything I'd ever known, just being held by him. That's why I was crying, because so happy. And then I realized we were traveling upward. I missed the takeoff, but we were just gently going up, and we were starting, and I could feel that we were going faster and faster and faster. And I felt embarrassed about burying my head in his chest and crying like a baby, and not very becoming to my new friend. And I turned my head to look at where we were going, and I saw what looked like a galaxy of stars, and quickly realized that they weren't stars because they were all moving in different directions in this great galaxy of trillions and trillions and trillions of lights, beings of light. And I knew profoundly and clearly that God was in there, in that. Mm. And that this was heaven. And this, actually what I thought was, this is God's house. Mm. That's what I call it, God's house. And so to this day, I always think of heaven as home, because it's where we belong, mm-hmm. where we came from and where we need to go back to.
Right.
And home is also where we're really loved and we're really known and we can really be ourselves, And I thought to myself, he's made a terrible mistake. I'm a piece of garbage. I don't belong here. He should put me back. And we stopped outside of home, heaven. Mm-hmm. And he said, we don't make mistakes. You belong here.
I was in this golden light, and
it felt like I was in it forever, that I could remember having a body, but it just seemed like, oh, forever away, you know? And it was completely irrelevant now. And I was just being at one with this golden presence, this beauty, and experiencing in myself all of creation, and realizing the oneness, the unity, the just the wholesome, loving kindness. And so I was kind of marveling, is probably a good word, I was marveling at this wonderful, wondrous, miraculous, timeless love. And then I thought, oh, I wonder if I've got any kind of a body. And I put my arms out in front of me, and there were rainbows. They were made of rainbows, rainbow lights. My whole body was just all rainbows. Like, oh, it was so beautiful. And I was kind of not glowing, but glowing sort of does it, but it's sort of like seeing electricity in the air, but in color, if you can imagine, electric colored lines. So they're kind of vibrating and all bright colors. And that was my body. I was a complete rainbow being. And when I saw this, I was just even more thrilled than ever. I mean, the whole thing is just too much love to describe. And I saw that everyone can do that, can actually experience their own rainbow essence, you know. So I was kind of marveling at this new discovery. And then I looked, and over in the distance was this shining, not shining, but this other presence of light. And so all this is golden light forever and ever. And then in the distance is this kind of white light. And it's just there, and I can feel it. And it's even more full of love than the golden light. I want to get to it. And I'm like, well, I wonder if I can fly or swim. How do you get through this, you know, all this love?